You already know what it is. In today's video, we're talking a little about the XLAT and a whole lot about the ULX from Final Mouse. So the ULX, or Ultralight X, is the latest in the lineup from Final Mouse, and it brings a few key changes. The most notable is the new carbon fiber composite material instead of magnesium alloy, and that makes this the lightest medium frame production mouse on the market. We also get USB-C, a new web-based control software called XPanel, and we get 2K and 4K polling right out of the box with 8K that should be ready any day now. And probably the most exciting change is that these will be continuous production models. That means no more hype cycle, no more limited releases, no more dealing with resellers. It will take a while, obviously, to meet initial demand, but eventually these should be in stock all the time. So if you've ever found yourself treating your Final Mouse like a showpiece or a collector's item and being afraid to put miles on it as a daily driver, you don't have to worry about that anymore. And that's huge because you're going to want to use this mouse. So a lot of changes, but shape is not one of them. If you're familiar with any variant of the Starlight Magnesium mice, you're going to find an identical shape here. These copies are medium because they're rolling these out first, followed by small and then large, which I'm very excited about because it's evidently the same size as the Air 58, which is one of my favorite mice of all time. But no changes to the mold itself. So if you have any aftermarket feet or grips laying around, those are going to work here too. So the major difference is this is now a carbon fiber composite material on the majority of the frame. The only thing it's not are the side buttons, the scroll wheel, and the bottom plate. Just like with magnesium, the bottom plate has to be a different material to allow pass-through for the wireless signal. This new material gives us two big W's, the first of which is weight, and that has been a point of controversy to say the very least. See, initially the quoted weight for the medium was 33 grams. Then as units began to come off the first mass production run, they went in and updated the website to reflect a more accurate estimate of 35 grams. Now, people were quick to jump all over this as a bait and switch, thinking that they just quietly updated the website and not said anything. But the reality is that they did make an announcement about this in their Discord when they got the first mass production units. Then after I made a tweet showing mine at 38 grams, it started this huge investigation over there, so they issued an apology and an explanation just a couple days later. So I picked up a high precision jeweler's scale after my tweet and can confirm that my copies weigh 37.99 and 37.84. Obviously still north of their revised weights, which again is pretty common, but Final Mouse could save buyers and honestly themselves a world of headache if they just shoot the estimates a little higher. Hey, if that upsets you, I get it. You have every reason to feel that way. I've had numerous conversations with Final Mouse about this. To keep things in perspective though, they could have called this 38 grams and people still would have bought it, and I simply can't imagine that anybody's going to be disappointed with this mouse once they have it in their hand. I can literally feel the texture of the weave of my Saturn Pro under this mouse. First impression, it felt unstable. I was all over the place. I had to cut my sensitivity way down and then slowly build it back as I got used to it. Even after spending around 30 hours on this over the past week, it still takes me a couple warm-up lobbies to get dialed in, but once I do, shit. Finding the ideal size for you is really going to come into play here because if you're having trouble finding a repeatable, consistent grip and you're dealing with the ultralight weight, you could have stability issues in game. I play claw. I like a little support under these main knuckles right here. This mouse works better for me in fingertip. That's why I'm so excited to try the large size. It's been a long time since I was on an Air 58. I don't play poorly with this, not by any stretch. I don't play Kovacs nearly as much as I used to, but out of about 50 runs, the two highest scores of the day were on the ULX in fingertip and my main, the X2H in claw. That's saying a lot because I don't play fingertip a lot. So after all that talk about size and weight, the other big factor with this new material is the clicks. They're light, they're super fast, like way more light than any of the Starlights. If you're somebody who liked the lightweight of the Starlight, but the clicks were too heavy for you, you're gonna love these. There is slightly more pre and post travel than the Starlights, but with the click tensioning this light, you don't feel it. The clicks on all three of my copies feel great, no issues, no variance at all. They killed it with these. The combination of the light clicks and the lighter weight makes this a really comfortable mouse to use for hours, and I definitely have. The first thing I'll tell you about the scroll wheel is that on both of my play copies and my diagnostic copy, they are all straight and they're all centered. One of my play copies is what I would consider absolutely perfect. The other one is louder. It's not a rattle, it's not a grinding noise, it's just louder. Now keep in mind, I've only had these for about a week. There's about 15 hours on each copy, but no issues. The wheel itself is made of a different material this time. No rubber ring, it's just a textured polycarbonate. It's the same diameter, but it's 0.5 millimeter wider across. The height of the wheel and the frame seems identical. I like it, no notes. Side buttons see no change from the Starlight. Same size, placement, material, protrusion from the body, everything. They feel good, again, no notes. This is probably a good time to mention the grips. They're going to be available for separate sale at some point in time. No price quoted yet, but everyone who's a first round buyer will get a free set on account of the long wait time. These are sized to match the corresponding mouse size. They're different than what we've seen in the past. These are smooth silicone and they're really thin, like Durex thin. You can still see the honeycomb pattern underneath it. It's like ribbed. I mention them here because they don't stick out as far, which means they don't change the perceived depth of the side buttons. On the other hand, if you're somebody who's used them in the past to make the mouse a little wider, these aren't thick enough to change the width of the mouse in any meaningful way. They do add just under a gram of weight too. The build quality on my units is very good. These did arrive sealed in the box. You would assume that they cherry-picked these for reviewers, but based on the conversations I've had with Final Boy regarding the weight, I really don't think they did. The carbon composite is really strong. There's no flex, no creaks on the side, no rattles anywhere. You can get some flex if you push directly into the top shell toward the rear of the mouse because this is razor thin and the holes are bigger than what we've seen in the past. But just don't do that. It's not how you use a mouse. Two very minor things to point out. Where the side frame meets the lower plate on one of my copies, one of the edges is just a little rough. And if you hold these in just the right light, you can see these little like micro divots on the triggers right above where the internal plungers sit over the switch. Personally, I find this totally irrelevant, but people have always seemed to hold Final Mouse to a higher standard, and God forbid I don't point it out, so there you go. This mouse looks absolutely mean. I love the aesthetic here. I do wish they would have wrapped the battery cables with black shrink in there, especially since the internals are a lot more visible this time around. I understand that adds weight, but it would have been a really nice touch. Yo, real quick, I promise, today's video is sponsored by me. I've wanted to do a wallpaper pack for a really long time, but it had to be something really unique. So a very talented 3D designer who's a friend of the channel put together a 5-pack of 8K super high-res 3D designed wallpapers that all tie into various aspects of the channel over the years. Whether that's keyboards, mouse surfaces, audio, even a tribute to my long-running favorite headphone, the DT1990, there is plenty of fire here. This pack is available right now. It's $5 over at badseedtech.com. I am so happy with how these came out. Thank you for the support. All right, that's it. Let's get back to it. So this time around, we do get control software, but it's not some sketchy download that's going to trigger your virus protection. This is all web-based like we see on the Wooting. I'm a big fan of this. Inside, we get a battery life indicator, which can also be displayed on the dongle itself. You'll see all your firmware versions. We've got a wireless signal strength detector, so you can make sure your dongle is positioned correctly. I mean, you can toggle motion sync, change your liftoff distance, adjust your polling rate. 8K is finishing up testing right now. Should be ready by the time people start getting their mice. There's DPI adjustment, 5 levels. I'm sure people are going to want more granularity on this, so hopefully we see that in future revisions. There is no debounce adjustment because debounce is 0. The only time there's a debounce algo that kicks in is when this is lifted high enough off the pad to avoid a slam click when you bring it back down. I ran both these copies at 4K full time because I imagine most people will, and I wanted to see the impact of battery life. I noted battery life at the end of every 4-hour block of testing. I saw it reduced by about 14%. Going strictly off the math, that means a full charge should get you 28.5 hours running in 4K. You'll of course get much greater battery life if you run at 2K or even 1000 hertz polling, but I didn't manage to drain the battery on either one of these yet. It is USB-C and the mouse will function wired as a standard input device and actually can play and charge, but you don't get access to the Xpanel software and no higher polling rates. I don't even think this is an officially supported use case, but it works. All right, let's talk about XLAT and latency real quick. You can skip this if you want, but I'm going to try to keep this pretty light for this video. This is a new standalone system for measuring latency. It's developed by Final Mouse. Right now, it measures primarily click latency, but very soon we'll also measure motion latency, and then eventually will span to keyboards and other input devices. The reason why this is so exciting is that this allows us to verify manufacturer claims about performance. Up until now, we've had LDAT. It's a proprietary device from NVIDIA. LDAT runs on a Windows system, and they're also very difficult to get your hands on in North America for reasons I don't understand. I tried for over 2 years before I finally got mine, and only a handful of people in the States have one. The way I've measured latency until now is via a microphone trigger by clicking the mouse, and the LDAT unit reports when a flash is registered on the display. That's called end-to-end latency. I've had to accept the reality that the microphone test just isn't it. After posting those results, I reviewed some of the work from my peers, and that data just doesn't hold up. I should note, though, that the monitor testing with LDAT is done completely different, and I'm very confident in that data. Now, there is a way to solder contact points using LDAT for much more more accurate results like you've probably seen over at House's channel. So XLAD isn't entirely novel, but it doesn't run on a full Windows system, so it alleviates any potential variables there. It should be easier for enthusiasts and reviewers to get their hands on one. You can build your own at home if you want to, and the software that powers it is all open source. That means anybody can go in and review the code to make sure Final Mouse isn't injecting anything in there to make their own mice appear faster, and there's really not a lot of room to subjectively interpret the data. It's really straightforward. The only thing I use this for this video is to verify the ULX latency claims that they posted publicly, and they're legit. In the weeks to come, I will do a full deep video just on this system, as well as catalog a lot of mice that I have in storage and start building a nice little database, but I don't want to rush it because right now, click latency, the methodology used, the importance that reviewers place on it, whether the data matters at all. These are all really hotly debated topics in the community, so I want to take my time with that. So all things considered, this is a banger mouse. $189, no need to spring for an extra high performance dongle. It's the lightest medium frame production mouse on the market, solid tech under the hood, and it's very well executed. I've been doing this for over 8 years now, and I still get genuinely like little kid excited whenever Final Mouse drops a new one. I should point out too, I don't have any kind of financial relationship with Final Mouse, but I do like them. Despite some interesting tweets over the years, and they're always too optimistic manufacturing and delivery estimates, they innovate. Whether that's lightweight or magnesium alloy or now carbon composite, they always leave other brands scrambling to copy their homework. I know that as a consumer, wait times suck. I'm probably more understanding about this since I went through the process of deving my own switches. Manufacturing is very expensive. It is nonstop challenges to get to the finish line, and it takes more time than you could ever imagine. I know people are hot right now, but I think they're gonna find that the ULX is worth the wait. It's a beast. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's gonna be the one single fundamental game changer for how you play, but as a performance mouse, they knocked it out. I really like the lighter weight on this mouse. When you get dialed in and you're in the zone, the flicks, the quick scopes, they feel incredible. I don't know if the medium version is gonna bump my current main, the Pulsar X2H, because shape is still king, but it's not going back in the box. I still have some testing to do. I'm definitely interested in getting my hands on the large and seeing what's up. That's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.